What's up, guys? Who needs a med here, coming at you with another retro deck profile. Today we're going to be looking at Anthony Meier's YCS Indie anti-meta deck for the March 2010 list. This was the end of the format where we had Infernities, X-Sabers, your Frog FTK. That's definitely the bulk of the meta. But this entire main deck is entirely Edison legal for the beginning of this format. So if you want to go to an Edison event and you don't want to make any friends, this might be the way to do it. I really like playing this deck. I know a lot of people obviously hate anti-meta. I mean, once you see the monster lineup, it's gonna all make sense. It is your standard anti-meta deck, and I really, really like playing stuff like this. But thanks to all the people who played against me and stuck around for it. First, you have your 3 Thunder King Rai-Oh. This is probably your mainstay in terms of anti-meta cards. It is probably still relevant to this day in anti-meta strats. This card is just insane. I think this card like Inspector Porter, I guess. But Thunder King has been the anti-meta staple for the longest time. And it's probably the best monster in the deck. There are quite a few really good monsters in this deck. It is just good monster. Don't let your opponent play .deck. And very much in line with that, we have our 3 Doomcals. Again, negate effects. We never really activate effects on our own end anyways, so we can just kind of stick with this guy, prevent your opponent from playing the game. 3, I'm not making friends, 3 Fossil Dynas. It's a really cool card in terms of like, so you could set it and it clears boards. You do have a problem getting through established boards and things like that, especially with like no dark hole. So this is one way to kind of clear monsters off the board if your opponent overextends. Yeah, the card's really good. And then this is the one I think probably makes people the most aggravated, depending on your meta. 3 Banisher. We do not like graveyards. We don't need ours. We really don't. We don't at all. I don't believe the ruling with Thunder King in this card. I believe you could Thunder King with Banisher. I believe Thunder King says send it to the graveyard, and I don't believe it is a cost. So I don't believe you're able to activate Thunder King under this card. But honestly, this card just dumpsters Infernities and things like that. So card's really good. It's hard for people to get over it. If you're playing like that Lightsworn Monarch deck for Edison, card's really difficult to get around this. Eliminating the graveyard from play is just such a big thing, and this card is awesome at doing that. Takes it entirely out of the equation. We have 2 King Tigers. Anything that has weenies, this instant kills it. I mean, the frogs and things like that, you don't have to worry about if you're going second, or if you're going first. Going second, that deck just, it is what it is. It's an FTK deck. It plays Mass Driver at hand destructions, a bunch of frogs, and then it wins the game. I mean, there's nothing you can really do. But yeah, King Tiger, really good card. Clears out the small boards. 2 Cyber Dragons to put more than one monster on the board. The deck is so normal summon centric that we need something in order to get over other monsters. And so we could use this to put it on the board, be a big presence, get rid of anything that your opponent can normal summon. We can use it to contact out for Chimeratech and things like that. So that is a play. And then the last monster is 1 Spirit Reaper. Again, we're trying to simplify the game state. We're trying to prevent our opponent from playing. So we have Spirit Reaper that we can take cards out of our opponent's hand. We can stall on it if they have only a bunch of battle, things like that. It's not too great against things like Infernity Break, but a lot of times they might want to hit your back row and things like that. From an Edison perspective, the card's just really good. Sucks to get Caiused, but you know, it is what it is. And on to the spell lineup here. Like I said, it's very difficult to get monsters off the board, so we do play a full 3 copies of Smashing Ground. To do that, 1-for-1 removal, our monster, it's basically just keep your monster on the board. Keep it on the board, simplify the game state. The less cards both you and your opponent have in hand, the better. Like, in terms of the game state of where it is, if you and your opponent both are down to like 1 or 2 cards in hand, you are absolutely at the advantage as opposed to your opponent. The way to beat this deck is to outpace it, to get more resources. You need to out-resource this deck, which is very difficult to do because it is so oppressive, but that is the way to beat this deck, is make it run out of cards and keep its monsters off the board, because your monsters are typically preventing them from doing what they want to do, and their monsters aren't really stopping you from playing, so you just kind of keep their monsters off the board, and then your monsters can put in work. Because like I said, spells and traps are one-time use, but monsters that prevent your opponent from playing and floodgates are not one-time use, of course. Obviously, things like Thunder King, whenever you have to tribute it, that is a 1-for-1, but non-1-for-1 things like your opponent not being able to special summon with Fossil Dyna on the board, your opponent not being able to search with Thunder King or negating an effect with Doomcal. You know, you Doomcal being Thunder King being the one for once, but everything else preventing your opponent from doing what they want to do. So that's kind of the goal here. To go along with that as well, we have 3 Book of Moon. We want to make sure that our monsters stay alive. And with this is a great way to protect our monsters. Along with that, we also have 2 enemy controllers. This is another great way to protect our monsters and to get over bigger monsters if they are able to put out something big. Both of these cards can put it in defense position, which typically is lower than the attack. So we can use our big 1900 beat sticks to get over those. And these are great ways to eliminate that. That's kind of essentially what the whole thing does. Because if you smash and ground a monster, yeah, you can attack directly, but if you Book of Moon a monster and attack over it, you've essentially won for one anyways. So you're simplifying the game state where you don't lose your monster. So that's kind of the whole point of the spell lineup. And then, of course, interesting to see he decided to play Heavy Storm because of the amount of trap cards that we play. And then 1 MST because it is limited at the time. And we will get on to the trap lineup here. First and probably most important trap, because we don't care, is 2 Royal Oppression. Our opponent can use this all they want. They're going to hit Cyber Dragon, and that's about it. Royal Oppression is awesome for this deck. Not so great in terms of Yu-Gi-Oh's history. I'm not really a fan of having to play around this card, but that's what makes this just insane. Obviously, there's like value and stuff like that, and Shura that can, you don't have to worry about, or this card can't really stop, and they don't have to worry about it. But Royal Oppression, it's part of the game's history. It's an insane card, and it doesn't really stop us. And the fact that it does not have to be face up like it would in a significantly older format like GOAT, we can change it to an inherent summon and run that over, is really cool. And just get rid of monsters off the board, simplify the game state, and don't have to worry about the card coming back to haunt us most of the time. I guess they can negate this if they really want to. We have 1 Starlight Road. Again, we have to protect our back row from all those Ick attacks and Geyserises and Judgment Dragons and things like that. So 1 Starlight Road. And this I really, really like. I didn't think I would. I looked at this list and I thought that's a really odd inclusion. 2 Magic Drains. So I noticed that whenever the game state would get simplified, they wouldn't have that spell, or they wouldn't want to get rid of that spell to minus themselves. So if you're able to activate this, like if your opponent is essentially going to be trying to top deck out of situations, and this prevents them from doing that, you don't have to worry about like a Heavy Storm when they don't have that spell late game. Like this card becomes so good the later the game goes on. Because let's say you're sitting on your Thunder King, and they're like, all right, I need to top deck something to get rid of this Thunder King. And they top deck Smash and Ground, and you use Magic Drain, gone. Their 1-for-1 is gone. They don't have it. This is just a great way to stop your opponent from getting rid of your monsters. And it just does its job. This card is significantly better than what it looks like on paper, and I highly recommend it. Definitely, if you're going to play this list, keep the Magic Drains in for March. This deck actually gets better in September, in my opinion. We lose a Royal Oppression, but we also lose Heavy Storm, and we get 3 dualities and 3 warnings. So maybe looking at it for the beginning of the September format. The reason I actually found this deck is because I wanted to find the last deck one of the last decks that still ran copies of Sakuretsu Armor. It's because it also maxes out on D prisons. So we have 2 Sakus and 3 D prisons. We also have another battle trap in Mirror Force. Essentially what we're trying to do is keep our monsters alive. So we have the Sakus, we have the D prisons, and we have the Mirror Force. No Widespread Ruins, but we want to keep our monsters alive. And if they have a bigger monster, they're going to try and run it over. And this really, really prevents that. Those damage step tricks with Black Wings, with Collude, or Sirocco pumps, they can make themselves nice and big and like try and run over our Thunder King, and we're just going to protect it all day. So that's kind of the goal here. 2 Bottomless trap holes. Again, summon stop. Prevent our opponent from putting monsters that are bigger than ours on the board. And then the last card is Solemn Judgment for 41 cards. Omni Negate, card's really good. No need to explain Solemn Judgment. The extra deck is hilarious. It's a whopping 4 cards because there's no, Monster Reborn. Obviously, if you're going to play this deck, fill it out to 15. The only thing he decided to play, he played 1 Black Rose, and then the Stardust for the Starlight Road, and then a Chimeratech because you can make it with Cyber Dragon. Play 2 of this. Play 2. And for some reason, Cyber Twin Dragon. That's the whole extract. That's all you decided to play. Fill it out to 15. If you're gonna play it, of course. And then the side deck here. 1 DD Crow. This card is really good against Infernity. To hit their like targets and things like that for as a Necromancer. It's just good to hit the graveyard. For Gladiator Beasts and sometimes Black Wings, we have 2 Jujitsu Masters. A lot of time though, if your opponent, like if you set a monster, your opponent will think it's Fossil Dyna, and they'll be like, okay, I'll just normal summon my Shura, or I'll normal summon my Laquari or my Bestiari, and I'll just run it over, and I don't have any special summon monsters, and you just hit them with this, and it's just out of nowhere. It's awesome. This card is really cool whenever you pull that off. The only spell is 1 My Body is a Shield. Again, just for those, the Geyseris plays and things like that. Judgment Dragon. All your mass destruction effects. Card's really good against that. 2 Dust Tornadoes. Again, from just general back row removal. Card is good. You want to be able to hit those Infernity breaks and things like that. For Edison, I maybe take one of these out in the side deck. Like I said, almost the whole side deck is legal. There's a couple cards that are not legal for the side deck. I thought this was really weird, and then I thought about it for a second. 2 copies of Compulsory Evacuation device. So my thought behind this is that people were going to be siding in back row removal like Dust Tornado against you. And so essentially so you would side out cards like Saku that aren't chainable for this because it is chainable. So if they attack you or whatever, if they want to like dust you before they attack, you can chain this and then hit something that's already on the board. So they essentially go minus and you've got something off the board. So you can use Compulse in that way, and I think that's really cool. So if you find yourself with them having cards that can remove back row pretty easily, like Infernity Break, you can chain Compulse and remove the monster that way. So good chainable. For summon stops, we have 2 just regular Trap Hole. Again, messes with Whirlwind, so it's good in that regard. 3 Pulling the Rug, the Heyday card from September 07. It's really good. It's still good against Monarchs and things that activate on summon. So again, Pulling the Rug, good. And then the last card, which is not Edison legal, but it's good for the general format that he was playing, is 2 Crevice into the Different Dimension. Yeah, card's good. Let me know what you guys think of the deck. There will be some duels in the description along with the full list. Be sure to like and subscribe for more retro format content, and thanks for watching, guys.